Hi guys, my name is Corey Simmons and I'm going to teach you how to use the Jeet framework, and this is actually Jeet framework 2 or Jeet 2. We've changed a lot of stuff in it. Basically now everything revolves around fractions. So as you can see here, we'll take a section element, which is this light gray area right here, and we'll center that inside of the viewport. And that's just what the center thing does. You can pass like a variable, or you can pass a size to that. So, by default, it's like 1400 pixels max width. But you can pass like, 700 pixels or something, and then like it would center it as a smaller, a more narrow container. And then with your A side or aside, we set it to a column, which basically just means that it gets a gutter, and we set that to 1/3. So in our article we set to 2/3, and this accepts any fraction, even like floated numbers. So you could say like 1.5 out of 3.5, and then you could say whatever for the article, but it just makes it really easy. So if we check out some demos, you'll see this is the first example that we just went over. Let's say that like you've got like navigation. Like if you check out my company's site, we've got like this nav bar up here where it doesn't have any space between each of the elements. And with a lot of frameworks, like you can't size things like that. Like you have to have a gutter in between them, or you just have to specify it as like one big block element, and then just kind of make it up as you go along. But with Jeet, you can actually specify, I want 3 equally sized elements in here, and I want them to take up 1/3 each, and you just pass span instead of column. We have a little Nicholas Gallagher's clear fix, and then we've got offsetting. So what we've done is we've taken this this navigation element right here. So first we've made a header, and we've applied clear fix to it. Then we've taken the logo, and we've given it columns of 2 out of 6, or 1/3. And then with our navigation element, we've given it columns 3 out of 6 or half. So this takes up half of its container. And then we've offset it by 1/6. So it gets a big margin left of 1/6. And we put our little navigation elements in here as columns, and we nested it so we got rid of the margins on the outside. And then also there's breakpoint, BP, which you have to end with end breakpoint. And basically what this does is it lets you create media queries quickly and on the fly. So you say like BP, and by default I think it's like 700 pixels. So like whenever you shrink your viewport down to about 700 pixels, everything will change. So right there. So that's what it's like by default, but you can pass like any number in here. So you could pass like 500 pixels in there. You could pass 1,000 pixels, and you can make multiple breakpoints. So anytime like you start shrinking down, and you notice your layout starts to mess up, just toss one of these breakpoint tags in there with the width of your HTML element. Like you'll see up there in the up there in the top where it says 1903. So you just say like breakpoint 1903 pixels, and then whatever you wanted to change. There's also a stack thing in here, which basically will stack things on top of each other. It just gives them a width of 100%, I believe. And let's see. So yeah, you see how like it's stacked these elements, the navigation and the article on top of each other. So that's how stack works, and stack basically just makes it really quick to make responsive sites. So like, we go down and then we stack everything. And now we've got, this beautiful responsive site, and it took us about 30 seconds. It took me about 30 seconds to actually turn everything in this page into a responsive site. So that's one of the strengths of Jeet. And let's see. So to learn more, just click on installation. It'll show you how to install it. Most of this stuff's like really easy stuff to do, but I've had a lot of problems with people on Windows installing Ruby and actually getting Ruby in their path. I'm not on a Windows computer, so I can't show you how to do it exactly. But if you go into like your C drive and look for go to rubyinstaller.org first, download, install the installer, and then you go into C drive, and it's usually under like ruby/bin. What you're looking for is an executable called Ruby. So whatever folder is holding that executable, you need to grab the the path for that. So it'll be something like C drive/ruby/bin, or something like that. It might have like the version number on it. But copy that, and then right click on my computer. It's either on your desktop, or if you go down to your start menu and right click on it, then go to properties. And then there it'll say something like advanced system settings. Click on that. Click on environment variables, I believe. And then I think there's two boxes that show up. There's like one that's like for your local user, and then the one below it is for like global. So go down to the box below it, one that is for your global users, and scroll down until you see path. Then edit that, and then append a semicolon and that path that you copied, and then hit OK, apply, all that stuff, and then restart your command prompt. Once you restart your command prompt or your console or whatever, then you can type in Ruby, and if it returns like something that's not an error, then you've got Ruby. So once you have Ruby installed, then you go install Compass. And if you're on Mac, Macs automatically come with Ruby, so don't worry about it. If you're on, so then once you have Ruby in your path, you could type Ruby into your command prompt or terminal or whatever, then go install Compass. It's just gem update system, gem install Compass, and gem comes bundled with Ruby, so you don't have to worry about that. And then install Node.js, which it's got super simple install thing for any system. Like it's even got the Microsoft installer file. And then go install a live reload browser extension. And the way to do this is just click on that link, find whatever browser you're using to develop with, and open that link, and then or add to Chrome or whatever. And then in Chrome, I'm not sure how other browsers do it, but in Chrome, if you right click on up here and then click manage extensions, then you can scroll down to wherever live reload is and check the allow access to file URLs, and that'll allow it to update. After that, open up your terminal and type npm install, and then pass it the G flag so it installs globally, Jeet, and then type Jeet H to see, or Jeet-H to see if it was installed. It should show you some help. Then navigate to wherever directory you could imagine, type Jeet create whatever, your project name, and then cd into that project, and then type Jeet watch. And whenever you do that, it'll start monitoring all of your stylus files, all of your Sassy CSS files, and all of your Sass files in with Jeet. So you can edit, like you can use both. You can use it, or you can use all three. You can use Sass, you can use Sassy CSS, and you can use stylus. So, and you can use all three at the same time, or just one at a time. So that's pretty cool that Jeet can watch all of those at the same time for you. And then open up index.html, edit whatever you want in it, and then whenever you're editing it, come over here and click this button. Oops. But whenever you click this button, that little dot in the middle, your live reload dot, will turn black, and that means that it's actually working. That whatever page that's clicked on will be updating. So as you save things, like in your editor, they'll automatically update over here. And we've worked on the live reload part of Jeet so that it's really optimized and fast now. So like as you hit Control S or Command S, it'll like automatically show you what's going on, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, that's basically it. We'll just run through the docs real quick. Center, we saw how that worked. Column works with a fraction, and then if you nest items inside of, or elements inside of other containing elements, then you would just say however many elements you're nesting. So if you've got 3 elements inside of another one, you just put 3 there. Gutter, you can specify a custom gutter that you want between your elements, and whatever you set this to, the rest of the elements will size appropriately. And then span just accepts a fraction because there are no gutters or anything like that, so it doesn't have to worry about the number of nested columns or gutters or anything like that. Offset, it accepts a fraction as well, and then you can pick whether or not you want it to go left or right. So you can offset stuff like push things off to the right, or you can push off from things to the left. And by default, it's set to a column size. You can pick span as well. What that does is basically it adds an extra gutter to the size. So basically, like a good rule of thumb is if you're using a lot of like span elements and stuff, and like you want to offset something and it's surrounded by span elements, then you would set this to span. So you'd set the 4th parameter, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd set the 4th parameter to span. If you're using columns, like if you're surrounded by columns and gutters and all that stuff, then just leave it as columns. You don't even have to specify it where column is the default for it. And then you'll notice this kind of stuff like next to some of these, and that's just an alias for it. So instead of having to type out offset, you can just type off. Span doesn't have one because it's so short of a word. Column has column or col. And yeah, there's also a get function where you can specify again a fraction, and again either the column or span version of it. And basically what that does is it returns a size. So for whatever reason, if this comes up and you just need to grab the size of something, and you don't want to like specify, oh, I want this floated and I want it to have a margin right and all that stuff. If you just want the size of it, then you can use the get parameter or function to grab the size. It comes up from time to time, but it's not super common. Breakpoints, we went over that. There's also a mobile first parameter to it. So the thing with mobile first is you start off small, and as you get bigger, things change. And the whole idea behind it is you design for a small site, and then as you get bigger, you add things to it and change the layout. And it's becoming a thing. Personally, I like to just make my site look pretty on desktop, since that's where most users are, and then as you shrink down, change it so that it looks good. It doesn't really matter, it's kind of just like a preference thing, but as my preference is, I don't like mobile first that much. I've set it to false by default, but if you want, just set that to MF, and as you, and then it'll only change as you get bigger. So that's the idea behind it, and really all it does is just changes max width to min width, and that's kind of how the whole mobile first thing works. And then you have to specify in breakpoint, and that just closes up your breakpoint thing. There's stack, which we saw what that is, but it has some parameters where you can pass the text alignment that you want. So sometimes, you know, you'll shrink down your page, and you know you'll get all this centered text, and you might not want that. You might want like left aligned or something. So you just, you know, pass in a letter for whatever alignment you want. There's some crappy little button plugin thing where you just, you know, you say button and then whatever background color, radius, and style. There's a few different styles, but really I just made this as an example of how you could extend Jeet. And in the future I plan to like make this totally awesome, so be on the lookout for that. And then there's this cool edit thing which applies a background color of like a super light gray with opacity. So what it does is it sets your opacity to like a really light gray color, and then as like, you know, elements stack on top of each other, it gets darker and darker. So it's a great way to see like how, like, you know, when you're prototyping your site. And also it's got this cool transition thing in it. So as you're like saving things and you've got live reload enabled, you'll see like elements like, you know, fly across the screen into their place and stuff, and it's just pretty cool. So it's not enabled by default or anything, but if you just toss that at the top of your style sheet, and then just comment it out whenever you're done using it, then it's totally cool. So yeah, that's an overview of Jeet and what it does and how it works. So let's go ahead and make a site with it. So first I'll have to I'll cd into my sandbox, and then I'll say Jeet create test. And what it does is it downloads the latest copy of the repo and sets everything up. So now if we look at it, we just have a CSS, index, and JS file or folders. So just type Jeet watch. Okay, it's compiling stylus and compiling sassy CSS, and it says live reload is on and listening. Cool. So let's open up Sublime Text, import our project, open up our index.html, and then, like I said, you can use Sass, you can use sassy CSS, and you can use stylus. Most of you will probably be using sassy CSS, and that's cool, but I'm a stylus fanatic, so that's what I'll use while I'm showing you this. And so if we just open up this file in a browser here, move our browser over here, and then remember, click on that button to enable live reload. Okay, so now let's just say hello world. You see I saved and it automatically popped up there. It's because live reload's cool. So first things first, let's enable editing mode. Just type edit there. See how I got the light gray background? Okay, now let's get rid of that hello world chunk. And what do we want to make? Let's see. How about we make a web page devoted to cats? Because that's what the internet's about now. Okay, so I'll say, let's see, we want a logo up here. We want some navigation elements over here. We want a big masthead image like right there, like, you know, a slider or some crap like that. And then how about like 3 separate services or whatever, since that's what every portfolio looks like. And yeah, so okay. So we've got a header, and I don't know if we need a header. Okay, sure. And don't, like, I'm not a markup purist. I think we probably don't need as much markup, or as like many presentational classes like button and button blue, and, you know, columns and column 4 out of 12, like all of those things being, all those classes being applied to the same thing. It's just silly, and you don't need it at all. It doesn't help anything. So anyway, that's my rant about that. So here's our logo, cats. And then we'll make a navigation element and give it 3 hrefs. We'll say home, pictures, contact. Okay, and as I save that, you could see like what the layout of it is right now. And if we expand this, you know, it just goes over there to the side. But now here's where Jeet comes in, okay? So remember, we've got this big header here with an ID of head. So if I type in head and center it, now it's centered. So now if we spread it out, cool. So let's say anchor, and we'll say, you know, I want that center thing to be 600 pixels. No, I want it to be 800 pixels. Okay. So yeah, now I can see like the edges of it and like really see what's going on. And where Jeet's like all fluid and everything, it doesn't matter. Like you can set this, you know, to something small so you can edit like I'm doing, you know, with half your screen. And then whenever you're done doing that, you can just delete that and it'll stretch back out to a comfy width. So I'll say anchor, and you know, since I'm just going to end up overriding all this anyway, I'm going to add a class to this. Logo. Okay, so I've got a class of logo, and I'll say column 1/5. Okay, so you see how that sized that logo to be 1/5? And then I'll say nav column maybe 3/5. Cool. Okay, so now I've got my navigation column. It's 3/5, and let's just say all the anchors inside of that. Oops. Say all the anchors inside of that. I want them to span. I want them to, you know, go side by side with each other. And since there's just 3 of them, I want them to span 1/3 each. And then I'll text line center that. Cool. So, you know what, I could probably just text line center everything in here. There we go. Okay, so now with our navigation element, we don't want it to be like right up against our logo. We want it to be, you know, over here on the edge. So what we can do is say offset or just off. And then what do we have left over? We've got 1/5, 3/5, so we have 1/5 left over. If I save that, it pushes off. Do you see how it pushed off from the left? Now, something else you could do is just move this up to logo and then specify right, and it'll push it off to the right, or just R. So if I comment that out real quick and we see that, you know, what's going on there, then uncomment it and save, now it'll give a margin right to the logo. So that's pretty cool. You can bounce those back and forth like that. Okay, so we've got our header, our navigation, and now we need some a masthead. And let me go ahead and make this element here. And I think there's like some placeholder image thing that gives you kittens. It's just text kitty of some maybe. Place kitten. I think that's it. Awesome. Absolutely perfect. Okay, so we'll just grab that URL there, say image, and then we want it to be huge. Just get rid of the alt text. And let's just save that. We'll go through the hassle of showing you how to do that. Okay. So why isn't that working? Is that too big? Yeah, I guess it was too big. They don't have 1400 pixel wide things. Okay, but our thing's 800 pixels, so we'll just use 800 pixels. So now I can go into masthead, and I can center masthead as well. And remember, I need to specify as 800 pixels. Okay, so there we've got our masthead. If we added in a couple more of these images and added jQuery cycle to it or something, and just apply it to masthead, we'd have a slider. All right. Okay, so now let's add. I don't like that gap being under there. There you go. Okay, so now let's add 3 services these kitties offer. Okay, and I should probably call that a section. That's more HTML5-y. And make this a section as well. Alright, cool. So now we want 3 articles, right? 3 articles, and inside of them we want an image. And I want that image to be another one of these kitty ipsums. Place kitten. Okay, and I'll just say something like 500 by 500 actually. Okay, and then next to that, I want a header. Inside of the header, I want an H1 that says kitties. And then I'll go up, make a paragraph, and what? Oh, I did that wrong. Alright. And just so I don't have to type in the alt stuff. Alright. So we'll make some lipsum. Okay. So now we've got our 3 services, but they all look all funky, yeah, of course. So we'll come in here, set services, and do that center again. Cool. And we wouldn't have to do this centering stuff if we just wrapped it in something. So let's go ahead and do that. Just say container. And let's go ahead and get rid of all these so we don't have to update all those if we ever want to change it. And it's probably throwing an error right now. That's why you're not seeing it like live update, because services doesn't have anything applied to it. So let's see, we've got articles in there, and we want each one of those articles. There's 3 of them. So let's put them as columns side by side. And like that quickly, you know, we're able to do that. So now, what do we want to do? Let's give this masthead some room to breathe. That doesn't look like 30 pixels on top. Oh, because I forgot to clear fix the header. Okay, so there we go. Now the header is actually containing that stuff up there, the margin will work on it. Okay, so now we've got some kitties here, and I want these to be those cool little circle things. Nice. And then do text align center. Cool. So now if we comment out editing mode, we can see our site. Maybe up here we need to make those look a little bit better. So let's give it a padding top of 10. duplicate that. Bottom. Maybe we can even get rid of the master top. Let's apply this to all the anchors. There we go. So now the logo and all the navigation elements get that. So I mean, you know, like that quickly, we made a kitty site, and you know, if you had like decent graphics and stuff, it would be awesome. But we're not done yet because it's not responsive really. Like it's hard to read whenever you get down to that size. So let's go inside of our mobile breakpoints here, and we'll say. And the way to do this, you can go through and like see like how you nested things and all that crap, or you can just right click on it, inspect element. This is what I do anyway, and it's a lot faster I think than. And it's something about Jeet is like it doesn't automatically do all this crap for you. Like it won't automatically try to figure out how you want to rearrange things, so it doesn't like constrict you into building your site a certain way. It just says, you know, I'm just going to make this stuff easy for you. If you want a breakpoint, toss it in there. If you want to stack stuff, which is pretty common, then, you know, just say stack. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say this header logo, and if we just click on it right there one time and copy that, paste, we'll say stack. And there, I just made this logo take up the full width and give it a little margin bottom. So that's pretty cool. Then we can do the same thing for our navigation. And you'll notice if you hover over it, you'll notice it still has that offset on it. So let's get rid of that too. So we'll go ahead and say stack, and then we'll specify it again. Just say off 0, 0 maybe, yeah. I'm just gonna zero out that offset, and there, looks good. And maybe we didn't even need to do that actually. Yeah, we didn't even need to do that because what it does is whenever you apply stack to it, it gives a margin auto of important, so it'll overwrite things like offsets and stuff automatically for you. Okay, and then let's go in here and stack up these kitty cats. Oh, you see how it's like the sections or the services isn't contained. So let's go back up here and add a clear fix to that so it's right. There we go. Cool. So now if we go in here, services article, save, and now that's cool that they all stacked, but now you've got like this huge kitten picture. You know, you don't want that. You want something smaller that you can, you know, won't scare people. So again, just copy that selector, and then go in here and say something like span 1,2, save. And now it made it smaller, which is good, but now it's like, you know, floated and all screwed up and stuff. So if we just go underneath that and apply center, it centers it. So that's pretty cool. So now we got you know, the pictures all centered and everything, but now we have text like touching the edges over here, and that doesn't look good, especially on a mobile. It's hard to read. So what you can do is just go in here and select the article again, which is just services article, and we can go down one and give it some padding. So padding left, say like 5%. And we'll just copy that, make padding right, 5%. There, and now we've got padding on both sides. So, you know, that quickly we made a nice responsive site. You know, like with some actual graphics and some cool like JavaScript effects and stuff for a slider, you know, stuff like that. We've got a pretty cool site. And yeah, so I mean that's Jeet 2. Everything's fractions, which is pretty awesome. There's offsets, and it goes all the way back to Internet Explorer 7 seamlessly. The only thing that I should be upfront about is if we enable editing mode again, Safari does subpixel rounding horribly. So if you've got really good eyes, you can see that there's like a couple pixels off, and as you nest things deeper and deeper, and you have more and more things, like more and more elements inside that are nested, this becomes more exaggerated. So like if you don't have a lot of things nested and stuff, it's not a big deal. But as you get deeper and deeper, it sucks more and more. And I figured out a way to fix it, but then it broke some other stuff, and I fought with it for like a good week until finally I just said, Safari, and Opera does it too, but Opera really doesn't have a lot of users, so too bad for them. But yeah, I don't know. It's it's a real pain in the butt, but I figured I'd just be honest with you. There's a couple pixels in Safari and stuff that might screw up, but other than that, I mean, it works perfectly down to Internet Explorer 7, and looks great, seamless in Internet Explorer 7. So anyway, hope you like Jeet 2 and all the changes we made to it, and yeah, just let me know what you think. Bye.